You know, sometimes being a Cowboys fan feels like being stuck on a roller coaster that you didn't ask to ride. And lately, that ride has been all drops and no climbs. I've been watching this team for years, and I can honestly say these last few days have been some of the toughest to stomach. Not because of a loss on the field, but because of what's going on off of it. We've got an owner who doesn't just appear to not care about winning, he practically says it out loud. Jerry Jones wakes up, knowing he owns the most valuable franchise in sports, worth over $12 billion, and instead of that money going hand in hand with a championship vision, it feels like it's just fueling more business bragging rights. And that's because of us, every single fan who tunes in, buys the merch, and holds on year after year, hoping for that next Lombardi. Meanwhile, here we are at the last padded practice of training camp in Oxnard. This is supposed to be the place where chemistry is built, where players lock in for the grind ahead, and what do we have? Micah Parsons, one of the most dominant players in the league, standing on the sideline like a caged lion, wearing his jersey, but not taking a single snap in pads. This isn't just today. This is the entire camp, second year in a row. CeeDee Lamb admitted last season that missing that kind of prep work hurt his early games. You can't simulate game tempo and trust with your teammates in a gym or at home. It happens here, in camp, shoulder to shoulder, and you know Doc will never throw his guys under the bus, but give him some truth serum, and I bet he'd tell you the same thing. Not having your top weapon ready in camp affects everything. The timing, the rhythm, the execution, it all suffers. But somehow, the Jones family still acts like plugging in a superstar cold is no big deal. That's not football, that's fantasy football. And reality doesn't work that way. What about you? Do you think Jerry Jones actually prioritizes winning, or is it all about the profits? Drop your take in the comments. And if you're tired of seeing our stars miss key prep time, hit that like button and subscribe so we can push this channel past 16,000 subscribers and keep the pressure on. There's a pattern here with the Cowboys that's almost impossible to ignore, and it's one that's been hurting this team for years. It's this habit of waiting until the very last possible moment to get deals done, not just once or twice, but over and over. Think back, Zach Martin didn't get paid until well after camp was already rolling. CeeDee Lamb, same thing. And we've seen it with other signings, two guys brought in after training camp ends, when the season is right around the corner. That might work in some kind of video game, but in the real NFL, those decisions cost you. It's not just about the player's contract being settled, it's about the work they miss. Camp is where a team gels, where everyone gets in sync on the playbook, and where guys push their conditioning to that next level. You can't replicate that by showing up cold in week 1. Take Carl Lawson last year. The Cowboys signed him after camp, and sure, he had for sacks decent production. But what if he had been in Oxnard from day 1, learning the scheme, training with his teammates? Maybe those for sacks turn into 6 or 7, and maybe those plays swing games in our favor. But Jerry Jones has this old school wait until you see the whites of their eyes approach too. Negotiations. He waits until there's no other option, then finally pulls the trigger. The problem is by then you've lost valuable time, the player's behind, and the team suffers. And the worst part, it's not like these deals take weeks of complex maneuvering. If Jerry really wanted them done, they could be wrapped up in hours. The delay isn't about logistics, it's about control, attention, and honestly, ego. It's frustrating because you and I both know the talent is there. We've seen this. Roster on paper, but you can't play catch-up in the NFL. By the time you're firing on all cylinders, you're already halfway through the season. Let me ask you, would you rather sign your stars early, even if it means paying a little more, or keep dragging things out and hope they catch up later? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you agree Dallas needs to lock up its playmakers before camp ends, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed for the latest updates. When you listen to Jerry Jones talk about his role with the Cowboys, you get the sense that he sees himself as untouchable. He's not just the owner, he's the general manager, the face of the franchise, the decision-maker on contracts, the one who drafts from the yacht, sometimes even the guy who thinks he can call plays. And to hear him tell it, there's nobody alive who could do it better. In his own words, he's been there every which way from Sunday and believes no one could come in and handle the GM role better than he can. That level of confidence would be admirable. The results backed it up, but decades of playoff disappointments tell a different story. The truth is, ever since Jimmy Johnson left, there's been no real check on Jerry's power. Coaches come and go, but Jerry remains the constant. And in that time, while the Cowboys have stayed relevant as a brand, they haven't been relevant as a championship team. It's not a coincidence when one man insists on controlling every decision, drafting, cutting players, negotiating deals that leaves no room for fresh ideas or hard truths from football minds who might see the game differently. And this isn't just the opinion of frustrated fans. Around the league, Jerry's reputation is well known. He's a marketing genius, no doubt, but when it comes to letting football people run football operations, he's his own worst enemy. That's why we see situations like the one with Micah Parsons drag on. It's not about whether it can be resolved, it's about whether Jerry's ready to resolve it on his terms. It's a tricky spot for players, too. They know Jerry controls the purse strings, and he's not shy about making them wait. That creates tension, distraction, and in some cases, resentment. And when you've got a team trying to prepare for a Super Bowl run, those are the last things you need. So here's a question for you. Do you think Jerry Jones should step back and let a true GM handle football decisions, or do you believe he still gives this team its best shot at winning? Drop your answer in the comments. And while you're here, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next big development in this ongoing saga. When it comes to Micah Parsons, you can't question the man's dedication. He's been at camp, he's been visible, and he's been supporting his teammates from the sidelines. But make no mistake, standing in a jersey at practice isn't the same as being out there in pads, grinding through the reps, and getting that game speed conditioning. Micah's situation is frustrating not just for him, but for the fans who know exactly how important he is to this team's success. He's a generational talent, a player who changes the way opposing offenses have to plan every single week. And yet here we are, heading into the season, with him having missed every padded practice in Oxnard for the second year in a row. That kind of absence raises real questions. Will he be fully ready when the season kicks off? Can you expect him to be at peak performance without that camp foundation? We saw CeeDee Lamb admit that missing camp hurt him early last year, and that's coming from an elite wide receiver. For a pass rusher like Micah, who relies on explosive bursts, hand technique, and physical endurance, missing that work could have an even bigger impact. And the worst part is, it doesn't have to be this way. This isn't about injuries or bad luck, it's about the way the front office handles business. When you drag out negotiations, you put players in a tough spot. They want to get paid what they're worth, but they also want to be ready to compete. Micah's presence at camp shows he's committed, but it also shows the leverage the Jones family has over players, forcing them to show up while holding off on making the deal official. From a competitive standpoint, it's maddening. From a personal standpoint, it's even more frustrating because you know Micah wants to be out there leading by example. Instead, he's stuck watching, waiting, and staying as ready as possible without crossing that line. So let me put it to you, do you think Micah will still come out in week 1 looking like the same dominant force we've seen, or will the lack of camp work show early? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single update on his situation as the season approaches. Looking ahead, the big question is, where do the Cowboys go from here? The issues we've been talking about with Micah Parsons aren't isolated. They're symptoms of a bigger problem that's been hanging over this team for decades. From last-minute signings to power struggles in the front office, it's a pattern that's kept the Cowboys from reaching their full potential. And the truth is, unless something changes at the very top, We're likely to see this same story play out again with other players down the road. Now, I'm not saying this team can't compete. The roster is still loaded with talent, and on any given Sunday, the Cowboys can match up with the best of them. But talent alone doesn't win championships. It takes preparation, chemistry, and leadership that puts winning above everything else. Right now, the Cowboys have two of those three, but the last one is still up for debate. If there's one thing history has taught us, it's that you can't outwork bad habits in the NFL forever. You can survive them for a while, but eventually, they catch up to you. The goal shouldn't be to just survive the regular season and hope to get hot in the playoffs. It should be to dominate from week one, and that means having your best players fully integrated into camp, in shape, and in sync before the first kickoff. For that to happen, the front office has to rethink the way it does business. The ego-driven delays, the wait until the last-second negotiations, they've got to stop. If Jerry Jones truly wants another Lombardi before he steps away, then it's time to put the team's preparation ahead of the drama. But here's the thing, we as fans still have a voice. The more we talk about it, the more we demand better, the harder it becomes for those at the top to ignore. So I'll leave you with this. What's your message to Jerry Jones right now? If you had 30 seconds to speak your mind, what would you say? Drop it in the comments, and let's make sure our voices are heard. And if you want to keep this conversation going all season long, hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of 16,000 subscribers. Together, we can hold this team accountable and keep pushing for the championship we've all been waiting for.